So thanks once again for joining us. Hopefully the weather wherever you are is a little bit better than what I'm currently looking out at. But for today's webinar, it's a nice kind of short and sweet one. But for anyone that I haven't met, my name's Keith. I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Seats. We're joined by my colleague, Neil Trueman. He'll be coming on a little bit later on. He's pretty much anything knowledge-based. He'd be our leading champion on it. So what we're going to be focusing on today, it's all about kind of reduction in time, like obviously your admin time when it comes to timetabling your placements, your apprenticeships, things like that. Also, it gives you just a much better understanding around student engagement while they're actually off campus. So it's not the whole kind of out of sight, out of mind piece. Lastly, just kind of having a bit more of a proactive student support system that will be in place. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how Seats can help your institutions when it comes to scheduling. Now, we are fully aware and obviously we understand the challenges that scheduling placements or apprenticeships in an organization, how much of a workload and an undertaking this is. So obviously it does take up a huge amount of time, and this is time that could be better utilized in other areas of your daily workloads. Now, with a tool such as this, you'll be able to see how it can not only give you back some of that much needed time, but also give you and your placement coordinators just a much better picture of how your students are performing while they're off campus. Now, your students' well-being, their engagement, obviously all of this goes hand in hand when it comes to ensuring that they stay on course for graduating. Now, there is a certain amount of flexibility that is required when it comes to scheduling students while they're out on placements, their apprenticeships and so forth. So this is something that we really believe that the Seat Scheduler can handle, can give you back that time that I mentioned earlier on. So here, if we go across into the Seats application and we just go into teaching events. So if I click onto schedule class up here and I go to my lesson type. So placement, this is obviously what we're going to be concentrating on today. Now, you will still need to have a module association. So for this example, we are going to go with midwifery. So you'll see that there's 2 students that'll be down into this one. Now, when it comes to who is actually going to be overall responsible for the students while they're on placement, now this is something you can create your own details in the background and then just select upon those from the drop-down list that will appear. So for the sake of this one, I am going to go with our senior nurse in charge. The date that I want this to begin from, we'll go with the 17th. So we'll click on save from 8 a.m. up until 5 p.m. So that'll be our running day. Is this an event that we want to recur? Yes. So in this instance, we are going to have it recurring daily, and we will go up until the 28th. So we'll save on that. Now, edit class instances. So in this case, we don't want a Saturday and a Sunday to be inclusive into this. So we'll just go ahead and we'll take those 2 days out. Click on to save. That's that done. So next, we have to put down a location. So if we select in here, so within this section, you'll be able to go through your site, building, location. So all the various areas, rooms, everything like that you could possibly be requiring. We are going to choose Queen Elizabeth University, and we're going to go with the Maternity Assessment Unit. Once again, click on save. Lesson description, it's not something that we need to actually put in for this one. The class itself, this will be mandatory. So I'll click on that. Class ID, I'm just going to make something up here. And once again, we'll click on to save. So if we go across to the corresponding dates. And we can see here, these are events that we have just created. Now, I'm obviously using a hospital environment for this, and we're kind of talking about the locations being like a specific ward, a theatre, emergency department, anything at all like that. When it comes to the physical check-in point of view, like on the day itself, the student would come in once they're within range of one of our Bluetooth beacons on site. They'll then be able to actually check in. Now, once all the locations are saved, everything's all up and running. So if we click into our event here, so we'll see that we have 2 students that are scheduled. So I can click into these ones. So here, we now have the 2 students that we know are actually going to be on site. So I was mentioning about Bluetooth beacons obviously being in place if it is like a building. If, for instance, if it's not somewhere a suitable location for Bluetooth beacons or any other issue that may arise, you could, like for instance, an agricultural placement, you could use something along the lines of GPS if the student was to be off campus. So it's just not really possible for beacons to be used. There is also the option of QR codes being made available, so the student can check in via the Seats mobile app. The QR code, that could simply just be in the form of an email, and it could be sent to whomever is going to be on charge on site. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, we don't actually use the mobile app at our institution. Or say, for instance, the student is having issues with their mobile phone and they're not able to check in this way. So at that point, what can they do? So very, very simple. The alternative could be just checking in with simple timesheets. So if we go to Alfreda, sorry, we'll just click back out here. We'll go to Alfreda. We'll click into her calendar. Now, so obviously we'll go towards the end of the month. So these are her placements that are selected here. Now, I'm using this obviously in future tense. This would typically be done after the event has actually happened. So we can see all of her placements are here. So for today's purpose, we'll say that it's taken place already. She has her timesheet all filled out. She now obviously wants to submit everything. So her signed timesheets. So if we click into add an activity up here, we should be able to create an event. So what we're going to do is we're going to go for the correct dates up until here, and all of this is very easy. The big thing about it is obviously that you're making sure that you still have visibility over the students while they're actually off campus. Just kind of helps with the engagement, just helps kind of make them feel that it's not kind of out of sight, out of mind. So there is still like a clear field of contact between both sides. Everything will be all updated automatically. So once the schedules are inputted in onto this, it'll be routed straight through onto the student's calendar straight away. So it's all in real time. So if there's any changes that happen, any cancellations that happen, it's all very straightforward. They get notified of it all straight away as well. So it's just a very, very seamless situation. So what we'll do is we're just going to say, please see attached for previous week's placement. And then what we'll do is we will just choose our file. So Alfreda, click open, and we will save that. So that was sent successfully, and we can see here it's uploaded, and now it's just waiting for approval. So if we click into approvals, we can see here, go for the correct date period. Apologies for that. Up until the end of the month. Select range. Alfredo Connor. And here we go. Please see attached for previous week placements. So obviously you go in, you check all of that. This is obviously just an example that I'm using today, so there's no actual information saved here. But for the purpose of this, we will just approve on activity. Yes, we will save that. Head back out to our home screen. Click into Alfredo once again. And into her calendar. Once again, we will just select the correct date period. So here we go. So you can now see it's approved. It's been highlighted in green, which means then obviously it'll count towards her engagement. She'll therefore actually receive credit for attending on the day. So that's kind of the main thing about this. So as you can see, it is just a great time-saving tool. There's so much flexibility that's embedded into this. So it's really just to take the additional time that would typically be required for scheduling placements. And as I said, putting it back into your own hands so that it can be utilized more efficiently. You now just have a much clearer understanding of your students' engagement while they're off campus, and just be able to re-engage them should the need arise. If the student is having any issues, they can contact you straight back. As I said, it's all just updated in real time, which is hugely beneficial for both sides. So, as you all know, it's all about student support, being proactive, going the extra mile, showing that there is kind of there's a person there to kind of help them out. And look, as we all know, good engagement, morale, it all just breeds into retention. And these days, it is everything when it comes to modern education. So yeah, thank you so much for your time today. I've nothing more to show you on this, but if anybody does have any questions at all, we would be, as always, be very glad to hear from you now. So there you go. Hopefully you were able to get a few little bits of information there that maybe you weren't too sure of. I was speaking with Neil actually a couple of days ago, and he actually came up with a great suggestion around how this can actually be utilized for the likes of staff training as well. So for lifelong training. Neil, if you'd like to come on and you could talk a little bit about that, or any other little tips that you may have had from using this over the years.
I was going to add, thank you very much, Keith. And again, in the little video, beautifully explained. Many use cases, as Keith has explained, in and around certainly scheduling for placements. We kind of understand perhaps some of the challenges around bespoke scheduling when it comes to source timetabling systems, and perhaps the challenges that organizations are up against when perhaps comes down to a more devolved process. So by being able to schedule separately within the SEATS application, certainly around placements or apprenticeships, is certainly of benefit. Some of you may not have even thought about using the SEATS application to be able to cater for that. So it really is perhaps the starting point of a potential further discussion with those of you who are on today, or perhaps you're watching the video back further down the line. That is something that we're happy to sit with you and work out a potential solution for that. Just to follow up, Keith, as well, just on the lifelong learning, and again, we perhaps sometimes focus a lot on the SEATS application being student focused, but there is nothing within the rule book, so to speak, to suggest that a student may not necessarily be also a member of staff. And of course, we're happy to schedule in a demonstration of what that may look like within your own organization when it comes to actually tracking mandatory training for staff. within a college, university, the SEATS application itself can be configured in such a way that that can all be tracked within the application. So it's certainly very beneficial.
Yeah, that's great to know. And it's something that maybe a lot of people just have never even thought about using. We'll be having our next webinar in a fortnight's time. So we look forward to seeing you all there. Well, for now, thanks very much for logging in.